All right, everybody, welcome back to the Daly Black podcast called The Brainstorm. We are sitting here today with one of the shareholders of Daly Black and the head of our personal injury department over here, Andrew Dow. Andrew, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Appreciate it, brother.
Of course, no problem.
I want to talk today about the event that happened this last weekend. It's what everybody's talking about. It's the 2021 ASTROWORLD Festival fiasco that happened. Travis Scott performance. I think 50,000 people were there. About 8 people died and ton of people were injured and having a bunch of stressful situations that have been enduring from that situation. So I kind of wanted to clear the air because I've gotten a lot of questions about this from friends and families. I've seen a lot of questions online. I think people are genuinely confused about kind of where things go from here. So from your perspective, I kind of wanted you to talk to people about a couple different things. One is like the different liabilities that could be present from different parties. Who is at fault for this? Who could be at fault for this? And second is, what can people do if they experienced that situation? They were present at the concert. Where can they go from here in terms of their options?
Right. So first off, what happened was senseless and tragic. Obviously our hearts go out to each family that lost a loved one, and it's just indescribable, and I can't imagine what they're going through. So I wanted to first say that. Obviously, this is a festival where tens of thousands of people attend, and obviously not everyone was inside the crowd surge, but there was essentially a large surge that occurred as Travis Scott was on stage, which led to people being trampled, people hitting the ground, people kind of being trapped, not being able to get out. And I think that this is something that a lot of people have seen unfolding through social media.
Right.
There are a lot of clips, photographs, kind of just, as you put earlier, this chaotic scene.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people in the next several days, weeks, and also months are going to take a look at it and see what potential legal options there may be.
Right.
Obviously, there are going to be people that may decide not to get a lawyer. There are going to be people that decide to say, you know what, we're going to call someone because of what we went through that day, whether you received injuries when you're being trampled, the mental trauma that comes from that, and a whole host of other things. And so I think that part of it is going to be over the next few days, weeks, months, people really want to know, okay, if I were to bring something, who can I bring it against?
Right.
Kind of what you were saying earlier in terms of, well, who's potentially liable here? And it's something where, that's what a lawyer's job is, right? To figure out who's potentially liable, who you can go after, and to best represent our clients, right?
Right.
And so, this week we have already filed lawsuits on behalf of several of our clients that we represent out of the ASTROWORLD incident. We have several more that we haven't not yet filed, and we're also in talks with a number of other people as well. And as you've mentioned, we've gotten calls on it.
Yeah.
It's something that's probably going to continue, right? And so what I want people to know is us, just like a lot of different other law firms, are trying to get to the bottom of what happened.
Right.
And that involves trying to figure out different companies that are involved in the organization of the festival, the promotion of the festival, the logistics on stage, any management crews, and security companies. There are, prior to a festival ever even occurring, there are a lot of things that have to take place, right? And one of those things is the organizers and the contractors that they hire trying to figure out some sort of emergency response plan.
Right.
So what's been reported in the media is that there are various accounts of what happened, but different people involved in the formulation of that emergency response plan, as well as various outlets' review of that emergency response plan, is that there was nothing in place to address a crowd surge occurring. So what that really means is that this was a risk that was going to occur at this concert, yet there was nothing in place by the organizers, by the security, by the management, by the venue to really address it, right? And as you've seen, the show actually continued to go on.
Sure.
As it was happening, as
Right.
the chaos was unfolding. You have people that are trapped beneath certain surges or mosh pits, whatever else. You have security and medical vans trying to get through the crowd, and they can't get through because there's no space.
Right.
But it's exacerbated, and frankly, everyone's put in that position because no one's stopping the show.
Right.
after the fact, everyone can say, well, you know what, maybe we saw this, maybe we didn't see this. But you have a lot of eyes on that stage. You have camera crews, you have security personnel spread throughout the venue. There's a car with flashing lights.
Yeah.
Trying to render medical attention. That's what we're going to try to get to the bottom of, who saw what. And that's part of the whole process of a lawsuit. A lot of people frown on lawsuits and say, well, why do there need to be claims brought? But the reality is, unless claims are brought, there are companies that are not going to make efforts to prevent something like this from happening again.
Right. And it'll just be a repeat of what happened now.
Right. That's the point, is that, if companies are held accountable, then the next time around, any of these companies are involved in any sort of production, that they'll take the time to really put in procedures and emergency response plans that will help and look out for the health of their concert goers and attendees.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, no one wants any of this to happen.
Right.
I wish these cases didn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? I have friends that went to ASTROWORLD, and it's, I think, the third or fourth iteration of it.
Right.
And so, obviously in past years, other people have gone. I know people that have gone. And this is something that, knowing the history of security violations and procedural violations that these companies have had, it's something that they should have addressed.
Right.
They should have known. Instead, what you get is Travis Scott on social media saying, we're going to get the wild ones in. We're going to make this a show. The reality is, to him, it's likely appealing to have a more raucous crowd and environment.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right? It's not like, for example, ACL, things are more calmer. There's multiple stages at a lot of festivals where everyone's more spread out.
Right.
Here, there's one main stage.
Yeah.
And if you're the one selling tickets, you know exactly how many people are going to be there.
Yep.
Right? If you're the security for a company, is there a plan in place if something happens or not?
Right.
If you're the organizers, did we hire enough medical personnel on site?
Yeah.
Or do we, what do we do if something happens? Do we stop? Do we pause? Well, none of those things happen. And someone needs to be held accountable for that.
And you brought up a good point, because you're saying, it's the lawyer's job to find the liability. So I kind of want to zone in on that point real quick and kind of tell people that you don't necessarily have to know what party is at fault in order to bring a claim, right? If people have questions, people can reach out and see what their options are without actually knowing what party is at fault. Is that correct?
Well, see, with the physical injury aspect, you're going to have people that were with other people that sustained physical injuries, right? And you're going to have people that have some sort of mental trauma associated with being in the crowd, being pushed to the ground, being stepped on, being trapped, unable to escape, So there's a physical contact there that leads to some sort of mental trauma.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
But kind of going back to the first part of your question, is that correct? You can file a lawsuit against certain entities and later on determine that there are additional entities that are responsible. And at that point, the lawyers would amend the lawsuit and add in additional parties. Right. And so there's a process called discovery, and it's something where the lawyers and the attorneys for their side engage in a fact-finding exchange of documents, exchange of materials relevant to the case, where we'll be able to really dial down or dial into the actual companies and what they were doing on the day of, and who the contracts were between, and other things like that. And so, for example, part of that process is, in our first petition that we filed earlier this week, we applied for a temporary restraining order against the parties, which would essentially restrain them from modifying and destroying certain evidence. We've also sent the preservation notices that are typically standard in cases like this, where you can't control what everyone's going to do.
Right.
But having an attorney in your corner, you can at least assure that they're doing what they can to get to the bottom of it, send out what needs to be sent out, and file what needs to be filed. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it's a process that actually does take some time. It takes months, some cases take a year, some take more.
Yeah.
In a case like this where it's unclear how many claimants are going to come forward, it is something that likely is going to take a while. But it's one of those things where, you only have one shot at something like this, right? So you want to make sure you hire someone that, has experience going up against large companies, handling this type of litigation.
Right.
And to be clear, I mean, I think I've said on this podcast before that, I'm one of those attorneys that recognizes there's a lot of good firms out there.
Yep.
a lot of good lawyers out there. You'll never hear me say anything bad about any other firm or any other lawyer. All I can say is that, we're a firm that has very sharp attorneys on our roster. The named partners, John Black and Rick Daly, are incredible attorneys. They're really the leaders for our firm. Kind of trickles downward. And it's something where we work very hard. I think we try to dissect certain things where we try to see things that some other people may not.
Right.
And I think that our approach and the fact that we're accessible to our clients, I think almost all my clients have my cell phone. Something comes up, you can contact us. You want a case update, you can contact us. We're accessible. We're not behind some sort of curtain where you can't speak with us and you don't know what's going on with your case. So I think with all that in mind, I think that, we're going to continue to have our pulse on the situation.
Yeah.
We're going to continue, representing our clients and also taking calls. And, we give free consultations. And we work on a contingency, so we don't get paid until you get paid.
Right.
We're very capable, and I feel confident that we'll get to the bottom of what happened.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, man. You said it's unclear, and it's just, God, it's such a weird situation, and with strange situations like that, people just don't know. So whether you think you have a case or not, you have questions, people can reach out to you. You want to give everyone out there a way that they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, so my cell phone's 832-641-8484. You can also contact us through the website. Our main office line is on there, as well as the attorney emails. And, our office is here situated right in the heart of Houston. We're on Shepherd and 59, right about there. So we're happy to talk to people on the phone, in person. You want to make an appointment, whatever is convenient for you, we're here.
Andrew, it's always a pleasure talking to you, man. Thanks for shedding some light on the situation,
Thanks,
bro.
Alex.